Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Comics Unlimited. Today, we are talking about stories, storylines versus artwork. Which is more important when it comes to comics? Guess you're going to find out.
Welcome to the Comics Unlimited podcast with your hosts, Glenn B. Fleming and Ted Davis.
Good morning. I am Ted Davies. I'm artist and author, best known for Retrieve and Grimm 101. Soon, some more work that's coming out too. Who's this guy?
Hello, everybody. I'm Glenn Fleming. I'm a writer, artist, and publisher. I write and draw Hatch, and I also help this young man to my right produce Comics Unlimited, as well as lots of other things and books and things. I'm sure you all know.
Yeah. So how you been, man? You good?
Yeah, it's really warm here. I was just saying to you before that lots of people should be banned cutting their lawns on a nice day. They should just enjoy the day. But anyway, that's another.
Sure, I understand.
Another rant for somewhere else.
So what's the Celsius there? What's the?
I'm not sure about the Celsius, but I think it's 84 Fahrenheit.
Wow, that is warm.
Yeah,
that is warm for northern England. That is warm. Yeah. We're to give you an idea, we're at 90 yesterday. Now we're at 67 right now. Wow. That's Michigan though. So and that's
I just thought there's going to be I thought there's going to be a really, really big thunderstorm soon when this breaks. That'll be wonderful.
Yeah,
and I'm going to go outside and stand in it.
Try not to get electrocuted. It's we need you around. Okay, guys. Well, first off, we want to say hi to everybody. We want to also talk about our sponsor, Cashman's Comics. John Cashman in Bay City has been there 26 years, putting together comics for people. So check out everything that he's doing. He sells some of my work. He's soon to be selling some of our work, Glenn and myself.
Really?
So, yep. And we'll be talking a little bit more with him about that. And of course, you want to say hi to PD the Guard Dog. Even online, you can do that. He'll ship it. He'll ship anywhere in the world as long as you pay for the shipping. Check out everything he's doing at cashmanscomics.com. Okay, let's say good morning to everybody. Oh, wow, I got a full house. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody watching on Twitch as well. Okay, Grant was the first person in. Grant has a new Kickstarter, too. We want to say check that out. Beowulf 4. Grant.
4?
Good,
wow.
Yeah, good luck on that one, sir. Much success on that. Carl, what's up? Donna, how you doing? Let's see. Clyde, what's up, man? How you doing, sir? Another top-notch personality in the comics realm. Clyde is just awesome. Great guy. All right. Okay. So what we want to talk about today is pretty general. I mean, you can make this a 5-minute show, or we can make it a 45-minute show, because I think stories, without story, nothing happens in books, comic books especially. But I think that the medium that we've got, artwork, it kind of takes a back seat in some regards, I think. But in a lot of books, but in this medium, you have to have both to be successful, whether it's stick figures or whether it's, but the story's got to have a flow to it. I mean, that's something that we've been talking about since the get, but
that's just a basic storytelling, isn't it? This is sometimes, I think, some comics I've seen suffer because the artist has tried to make the page a work of art, and that isn't the point, to me anyway. That's not the point. The story is everything, so the storytelling aspect comes into it. Whether you use full page panels or 6 panel pages or 12 panel, whatever it is, it has to advance the story. And I've seen a lot of work, some in 2000 AD, which is obviously a professional thing, but the artist has got a little carried away, I think. Just my opinion, and missed the point. Beautiful artwork, but if it doesn't tell the story, it's meaningless in a comic book format.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very visual world right now. Everything, even our backdrop. I mean, it's a lot of Broadway lights and everything.
It's like a bomb gone off behind my ankle.
Yeah, well,
sorry,
but no, it's good. I just know that there's got to be some shock factor to it. in today's market, because everything, we're just inundated with all these different images and not commercials necessarily, but advertisements, things of that sort. YouTube is everything's clickbait now. So, and it's including comics. If we're looking back even on something like this with George Perez, I mean, that's a pretty spectacular presence, right? I mean, everything was, even when we were growing up, that was, comic covers were everything. If we had just the title and what the story's about, we probably wouldn't, that's
but
prose,
the cover is different than the interior. The cover is to attract you to pick it up. You've got to have a nice piece of art for that. It still has to tell some kind of a story. But I'm talking about the actual 20 pages in interior or whatever for moving the story over. Yeah, of course. And like we did the splash page a few weeks ago, and that needs to be engaging, needs to draw you in. Yeah. But the rest of it, what I'm saying, I used to, in the 80s, I worked with this guy, great artist, but he used to design his page first. He'd have a round panel here and a long one there and a square one there, and then put the story in it. And I said, that's the wrong way around. You don't. We're not creating art yet. We're writing. We're telling a story. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think
I do.
I don't do that. I would prefer the way people like Jack Kirby would do. They'd have 6 panels on a page the same size, because this is what Dave Gibbons was saying about Watchmen. When he and Alan Moore started to produce that, he decided that it was going to be that the panels were going to be the same size. Okay. So because when you go to the cinema, the screen doesn't change size. And if it did, it would disjoint your view, and that's what a design page does. Okay. Suddenly, if you change the panel shape, or it changes it jolts, and that's not the point. The point is to tell a story, a straight story. Now, the artwork can be fantastic, but I'm talking about the panel arrangement. Okay.
How do you? I know working with John Celestri on Feed the Beast on that podcast, we talk a lot about movement of page and flipping the page, right corner movements so that you want to turn the page. Yeah. I think that since we're talking about placement and design layout, that movement is just as important as what the artwork is on that page. The story is one thing. The story in itself is one thing. How it's written, but the movement of the page, I know what you're saying, but it changes if it's in manga form or in whatever. I mean, it changes because it's flipped. I mean, there's left to right versus right to left. I mean, it's all kinds of juxtaposition. So, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that that's it's got to be a combination, probably?
Yeah, well, it always is a combination, isn't it? But what I'm getting at is the actual design of the page, not the panels, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have, let's say, 6 panels to a page, and one of the panels is an open panel. Okay. And I'm not saying that Captain America's hand shouldn't go into the panel before it, because
I see.
I'm talking about the design of the panels on the page. And this guy I work with, like I said, would sit down and he'd draw a circle there and a triangle there and a rectangle there before he knew what he was putting in the panels. And that's what I'm getting at. Yeah, that's making it. It used to make it look like a piece of art. Like, wow. And it was. He's a great artist. Wow. What's it telling me? Nothing. It's just telling me it's people flying around. It's that's what I'm getting at.
But there's not a real rhyme or reason for it, yet, because you didn't have,
and it's like we said this, we covered this before. If it works, it's okay, which sounds contradictory to what I'm saying. But
no, it's a happy accident. I mean, if it works, right?
But you've got to have his vision was a nice page. My vision was to tell a story that people could understand.
So you're it's like in architecture, form follows function. You would design a space around the function of the qualities of what you wanted for that space.
What's that place in Dubai? That hotel that's 16,000 miles high.
I don't know the name of it, but I know I know the look of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
the architecture. Yep.
That is probably the contradiction to what I'm saying, because obviously it does work and it doesn't get blown over and stuff, but it must have been a fantastic engineering feat.
Sure.
But I'm sure that, I don't know whether this is the right example, but they were trying to make a point, weren't they? They want the biggest building in the world.
Sure.
But what I'm saying, it's got to work. It's got to be, you know, this as an architect, you've got to, I can't explain what I mean. You can't just say, oh, let's have this building hanging by a cotton thread hanging over the Grand Canyon, because that wouldn't be practical. You know, you've got to make the damn thing. It's got to work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's got to be, yeah, it has to be functional. Yeah. Completely functional. But Jody's in the house. Good morning, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
Well, I think that you're spot on with that, with the page layouts and that. My concern is that if the story's not, what I was getting at was, if the story's not executed properly, it won't matter if it's got, you know, gold dust in the
That's
pages.
right, yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
See,
so go ahead.
One person who gets away with it is Jim Steranko.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the page, it still works. It still tells the story. A lot of people, like I'm saying, people put circular panels and there's no point to it. There's no reason. Yeah. There has to be a reason. You can't just throw things in. It's like we said before about the artwork. If you put an extra line of cross-hatching in, why? Do you understand? It's got to be clear. Yeah. You don't need to do all that stuff. Some people get away with it, like Brian Bolland and Bernie Wrights, and they're excellent. Yeah. That's because they're illustrators. But you've got to, it's minimal. You've got to, you're telling a story.
Bill Cicewicz is probably, he's one of my favorites, but the way that he tells a story on a lot of the illustrated stuff that he does is incredible, because it doesn't follow. He was told, you know, you can't do it this way. You cannot do it this way. You have to do it, the comics, you know, this way. And I think some of the best work he's ever done is when he's away from that. So, and that's an illustrative mind. That's a person that has taken that to a whole nother spectrum.
Didn't he do Frankenstein?
He did a few of them. He did, the one he did, let's see which one I've got. Well, he did Moon Knight, but he did a few different things like that. But he did some of the classic illustrated books that he did. Moby Dick and that were just, I mean, incredible illustration work. But the way that it's done, you would not think it would work, but it works so well. And these are classic stories in some of the cases that he's done, that you already know the story, but the way it's presented and the way it's executed on is just incredible. But again, this medium is interesting because you have to have, it's got to be brought together this way. We can have a prose book, no problem. You know, we could do a prose book with illustrations or without. But when it comes to comics, it's got to mesh. Like I said, even if it's stick figures, it's got to have the story that's you know, placed in a way that's understandable, but also it's not insulting to the reader.
It's got to tell the story. It's got to be clear and precise and tell the story. Otherwise, it's worthless. If nobody can read it, nobody gets it.
Right.
There's no point.
Yeah, Grant's a huge fan of Bill Cicewicz too. I really love his work. I mean, he and Mike Mignola are both, you know, tops in my eyes. Let's see. Joe mentioned something here. He says, seems like most comic artists today have no clue on thumbnails or storyboarding. Well, and I think that was actually, hold on, a question he had prior to that. Did the 90s focus on art, especially in the change of layout toward pinup like work, ruin the art storytelling? Yeah, you know what? Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, there's a lot of flash. It was, I don't know. The 90s were okay, but it's just, I mean, Hellboy was in the 90s, so I'll give it that. But some of the other ones, some of the image stuff was just like, wow. I mean, it was just over the top. I don't know. And I'm trying to get Eric Hawkins kind of charged up here, because Image really pissed me off back in the night. Not really. If I see another foil cover, I'm about ready to barf. But yeah, I get what you're saying on that. What was probably the best book with the art and the story together? Name it right now. Go. Come on,
Fantastic 451.
Okay. Okay.
Enough
Why?
said.
Why?
Why? Because you've got two of the greatest comics personalities at the peak of their powers.
Okay.
It's a one-shot story,
Yep.
but it's absolutely incredible, the scope of it, because they go in the negative zone, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's sandwiched in between Galactus and the Black Panther, two of the
Yep.
most iconic characters, and Silver Surfer.
Yep.
And I think that comic is just the best comic. Oh, it's just my opinion. Lots of people don't like it, they don't rate it, whatever. That's just my opinion. They're entitled to theirs. I think it's a classic. I think it's a perfect. If I was to show anybody what a comic was, I would show them that, because the art is beautiful, the inking's beautiful, the lettering's beautiful, the scripting's beautiful, the concept, everything about it, to me, is perfect. It's perfect.
Awesome.
I wish, and if I could own any Kirby artwork, it would be that issue or from that issue, because I just think it's wonderful.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're not, hemming and hawing about which. I don't know which one I like. You're very precise and very poignant. That's good.
Yeah,
Eric said he's doing the foil die cut embossing covers for World of Oz 5.
Brilliant.
Great. Don't know if I'll be investing in that one. I don't know, man.
I'm not sure whether I'm coming over.
I'll definitely invest. I'll definitely invest in that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm coming over properly. And it's my fault. I'm not saying that the story is. No, I am saying the story is more important than the art, but I'm not saying the artwork can't be good. I'm talking about the page design, and I'm not sure whether I'm coming over, but I'm talking about the actual the panel design, which often
the layout of the page.
Yeah. There's nothing to do with advancing the story. It's just that, Spider-Man's coming through the window, we'll have him 3/4 of the page, and that kind of thing. And it's some, you've got to be really careful. And like I said, I think the only person I've seen get away with it really is Steranko, but he doesn't interrupt the story. So he's doing what I'm saying he's doing. He's considering it.
Do you think that your generation? Well, I think generations read things differently too. I think that your generation will read something more in structure format than, say, millennial. Maybe not, but I'm just throwing it out there. I think that probably, though, generationally, we look at things differently, whether it's genre or whether it's layout or whether it's colors.
Yeah, I think an element of that is people change things for the sake of changing it, because they don't get what it does in the first place.
Yeah, and that's been kind of an argument with a lot of, in general, in today's world of comics. That's been a huge debate, which you and I don't care, because it's all comics.
Do you remember, must be a long time ago now, 30 or 40 years ago, when John Byrne did the Fantastic Four?
Sure.
And he flipped it landscape.
Yeah.
Why?
Because he could.
Yeah. I mean, why? Why?
They're trying something new. I mean, comics should be an experiment to some regards.
What were they trying? What were they trying? Just to turn the page the other way? What does that do? It doesn't do anything. They still got panels in it and a story in it. It doesn't do it. There's no point. It's like having a book. But books are portrait, aren't they? Generally.
Yeah.
So let's make them all landscape. Why? It works. It's proven its work since Gutenberg and those people in 1490.
Yeah.
They make a book portrait. So why make them all landscape? What does that do, other than make it landscape? I just don't believe in change for change's sake.
You're rigid, boy. God.
No, I'm not. No, it's got to improve. I've said this before. If it doesn't improve, it's pointless.
I think that trying something and then mandating something are two different things. I think that we should look at it, and I'm with you, because I think in certain regards, I think that landscape has a portion that could work, but just for the sake of doing it for marketability's sake, I think that's not. It's like it's like the foil covers back in the 90s. Why? I mean, I have quite a few of them, sad to say, in some regards, but some of them are really cool. Yeah, some are really cool. But some are like, geez. Let me go to what Eric was saying. Eric said that Bill Sienkiewicz drove me away from Spider-Man with his arc after Craven's Last Hunt. I couldn't stand the art. Now I appreciate it, but the young Eric didn't like it. Yeah, and again, things change as you go. So Grant Lankard asks, I was going to ask Glenn if there are any current artists that he likes, anything that in the mainstream or
Yeah.
in
Yeah, there's this guy called Ted Davis, and his artwork is absolutely brilliant. It's almost as good as mine.
Wow. Thank you. All right. Carl says, wow, Glenn is traditionalist. Well, I think that you got, but again, it's just the way that you prefer that. You're more structured. You're more structured in that. And that's cool.
I say this to Carl. I might be a traditionalist, but don't mean I'm wrong. I just think that why reinvent the wheel? Why reinvent the wheel? I've said this
because if we wouldn't be covering
a wheel is a wheel.
Not be covering the most amazing story that you think is. We would have never gotten to the moon if we didn't reinvent certain things, bro. So, and
that's not true.
The argument. It's it. It's done. Argument.
No,
done.
That's not true. What did we reinvent to get to the moon? We invented it to get to the moon. We didn't reinvent anything to get to the moon.
But we didn't. Why go to the moon?
That's a different argument.
What are you talking about? Traditionalists would want to stay on the planet. Forget the, I'm just.
You think I want to stay on the planet?
I'm jerking your chain.
I'm on the next flight. Right. I'm telling you. So I landed that thing. I told you about that. I landed it on the simulator. Nobody else had done it before me, except the real people.
So Joe, he says, I don't think it's generational. I think it's based on rules that is common in comics for the time. Perfect example, read a 1950s Archie comic and then read one from today. And that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up, that maybe it might just be, it might be not just generational, but your training's different too, Glenn. The way that you look at things too, as a publisher and as a illustrator and everything else, an artist, your structure on things is different. And some of it, I like sometimes, tweaking it a little bit because it gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
Six panels can get boring after a while.
There's always room for improvement, but if it doesn't improve it, it's a waste of time.
But you don't have to reinvent it. I agree. And I think that is a problem with a lot of things now because we tried to revamp them. It's like a reboot on a reboot on a reboot. It's like, oh my God, just
look at what they've done with the Joker. They've turned him into a hero, haven't they?
Well, yeah.
Why? He's not. He's a psychopath. He's a murderer, and we saw that in the film. But
sure.
But we have sympathy for him because of whatever, You
gonna read that?
No, we don't.
No glow in the dark. Come on, man. That'll solve everything. We'll do every Kirby cover.
Does it advance the story? No.
We change. I think that's it. We do every Kirby cover ever made in in layout and landscape. In landscape and glow in the dark colors. That's
stretch that artwork. Maybe that's what that person was doing when they ripped in the Fantastic 400 cover in half. Maybe. I told you about. Maybe they thought they ripped it and then put it side by side. Yeah, that was a good move.
What do you think? Well, okay, so you're saying go back to and today they do have traditional layouts. They've got some great comics. I enjoyed one of the stories I enjoyed was actually Eric pushed me towards the book Geiger. I thought it was great, and it had all different kinds of panel organization in it. It was really, I thought it was very well done.
I'm not saying go back to anything.
Okay,
you can go forward if you want, but it has to work. There's no point. If there's no point in doing a circular panel, then don't do it. Don't put your panels on the page and then drawing them. Know what you're going to draw. You might end up with a circular panel if it works. Don't just do it because. This is what I keep saying through these things, and people don't hear it. Don't change it. Don't change it. If it doesn't make it better, don't change it.
Yeah, and I understand.
Change everything. Draw standing on your head, but as long as the artwork is better,
and the story's being told, that you can understand it.
Yes,
I think that I have to disagree with Joe in some regards because I do think it's generational in some sense of the word, the way a story is told. I think that I mean, even the way that we structure our sentences now is different than it was 200
Yeah.
years ago.
Well,
So,
2 years ago, from what I've been reading.
well, right, true. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, but I think that the stories still have to be able to be told the same way in a lot of cases. I know there's a lot of change in a lot of old stories now, and people aren't liking that, and I get that. But in general, though, this particular show is talking about storyline versus artwork, which is more important. In comics, I really don't think that it's got to be both. It's got to be
no. This show isn't about art against. It's not. It's about the design of the page. The design of the page does nothing to do with the artwork or the story. But if the design of the page doesn't advance the story in any way, then there's no point to doing it that way. If you want to draw triangles as panels, and it makes story work, then that's okay. But don't decide, oh, I'm going to make this page all triangular panels. What's the point of that? You're only going to put the same drawings in, and you just don't want to make.
Yeah, right, right. Joe says, Glenn, I think what Ted's getting at is not to reinvent the wheel, but building a better mousetrap, making something more efficient. Well, and I can understand, but that could be subjective. Yeah, I think it's very subjective. And again, we're back to, the basics of it all, perspective. When it's all said and done, the reader is the one that decides it.
Yeah.
Right? So when it's all said and done.
Well, Carl's saying there, he thinks the irregular panels in Retrieve work because it's, yeah.
Okay. Well, but again,
that's what I'm saying.
When somebody takes this idea and then does another book, another artist, if they end up doing that, that's cool too. No problem. It's just it's
only if it works.
But it's an adaptation to as long as the story is told the same way. Yes.
It's like I watch your show when you're drawing those Retrieve pages, and I'm going to say this. I think your art's brilliant. Thanks. I would never draw or paint like that, but you wouldn't draw and paint like I do.
No, I probably wouldn't.
Right.
If I was trained the way you were, maybe.
I'm not trained. I've only trained myself. I've not been trained. Nobody ever taught me how to draw. I mean, I went to art college for 2 years. They showed me how to draw naked ladies, or they gave me an opportunity to draw naked ladies. Nobody's told me how to do it. I just did it. Draw that naked lady. So I did. And everybody and 15 other people. 15 other people.
How many naked ladies have you drawn, Glenn? That's the next question everybody's going to ask.
Probably about 5.
Wow, impressive.
Many times.
Pete's in the house. Good morning, Pete. How you doing? If you guys like this debate and conversation, if you could like and share this out, that would be awesome. We would appreciate it greatly. It's a good conversation because I think that's, we're two different generations. We're two different artists, two different sides of the globe, the pond. And we both think that this discussion is important because I do think that something's going to come out of this. I think, just to ruffle feathers, I think you should do the layout first. Not really. I think that you should be telling the story first and then figure out your plan of how you're going to flow.
The story is everything.
Period. That's it.
That's it.
So, but again, the way that everybody learns differently, this is why comics is so important because it offers a visual to people who might not be the best readers in the world. They're visual learners, but they're not, they aren't meant to be kept in the dark. They can still follow along and enjoy a story. That's what I love about comics because you don't have that, that wall, if you want to call it that, with that prose books, that feeling that, not everybody's going to pick up a prose book that's 300 pages with no pictures in it and read it. With a comic, it's different. You have that almost permission. It's not as cut and dry for a lot of people. Some people really have a hard time reading, and I don't want them to feel what's the word I'm looking for? Blocked out from enjoying a story. Does that make sense or not?
Yeah,
or not?
It's I'm talking about the design. It would be like picking up a prose book and every page had one letter on it. It wouldn't work, would it?
No.
So they don't do that. They put 1,000 words on a page in lines and sentences. That's what I'm talking about, the design of it.
I see.
Like I said to you about John Byrne's Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
What was the point of that? There was no point of it. It didn't.
Well,
I mean, John Byrne's work is fantastic. John Byrne's work is great. I love it. But what's the point of that? Why didn't he do it all in negative or, what's the point? There's no point.
Do you think that, I mean, okay, so you've got a board of directors, you got all these other things. That's what it's about. It's about marketing. It's about changing something up because it's going to be limited production probably, and they're going to try to make this into more than what it should be. And, we're seeing the thing, we're seeing that in today's world a lot. So regardless of however you look at it, but there's a lot of things that we can learn from it. I don't necessarily think it was bad for a career move for Byrne, but I didn't really care for it.
Well, then he was doing the wrong reason, wasn't he? He was trying to further his career.
Yeah. So laugh my ass off. Art school gave me an opportunity to draw naked ladies. I missed out. I went to Technical University for Computer Science. And
well,
then
now you could draw them on a computer.
Right.
Joe.
Well, Carl says, hey, Joe, draw IBM 3000. Eric says, I used to draw naked comic characters in high school for a quarter. Commission price. That's great, man. That's right to have that. That's right.
That was nipped in the bud. I got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
At school.
Let's see. Pete says our reading programs at our comic shop using comics as a literary gateway it was huge, and that ended up forwarding a lot of things. I mean, I met a lot of people because of Dan's Dream and everything else that we were doing with all that. It worked. I mean, it was awesome, and it helped so many people, so many kids, especially. Huge thing. And Grant agrees with me. That's all I'm saying. Well, show's over. Night, guys.
See you
Mic
later.
drop.
Nothing to disagree with.
No, it's.
I'm talking about the layout.
I know you're
not the drawings.
Everybody
the
understands it.
Okay.
Everybody understands it.
Well, like I said, I'm not sure whether I'm coming over properly, but okay.
Who's the best layout artist?
Jack Kirby in comics. And also followed swiftly by John Buscema and Gil Kane.
Wow. Okay. Top notch.
The best. But I'm old school. They were the best. Show me somebody who's better now. And there's a lot of good people out there. Don't get me wrong. They're not rubbish. They're just not as good as those guys.
Again, that's extremely, well, generational, but it's also, it's subjective.
Yeah, but it's like,
I mean, I think some people hate Mike Mignola's work, and I know that early on I didn't really care for his work, but I can see the progressive state of it now to where it was back in the day, years and years. I'm talking decades ago. Now I look at it from, it's quite remarkable. But for me, I mean, Bill Cicewicz, same thing. I look at his work as I could take each panel, literally each panel, and make it its own thing. I could frame each of them. And that's something that is different, I think, for me, looking back on. And even though I love Jack, don't get me wrong, but there's certain things that if it weren't for him, weren't for Jack's vision, Mignola and I don't think Cicewicz would even be in that league at all. You know what I mean? Not comparable, but storytelling wise, though, Mignola, I think, is because he comes up with the stories too. And that's pretty much my rub on it. But anyway, okay. What were you laughing at? You were smiling at something. What was
Grant says he's not psychic, but if he asks me who is the best, the answer's going to be
Kirby.
Well, he is.
Well, it is, and I don't blame you for that at all.
As simple as that.
I mean, even Pete said it. Pete said the same thing. Pete's like,
it's like
Jack was the greatest of all time.
It's like I'm sure there is somebody, but I don't know anybody who doesn't think that Leonardo probably wasn't one of the better artists of history.
Right.
People like Van Gogh. I don't like Van Gogh's work at all. I think his color sense is absolutely top notch, number one.
Yeah.
But his actual rendering to me, leaves a lot to be desired. But if I had the chance, I'd have those sunflowers on my wall,
Absolutely.
because I know next week I'm going to get $50 million more than I
Yeah.
paid for it. So,
Have you?
so there's John Burns' reason.
So
to
you're a flipper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen his self-portrait?
Leonardo,
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Oh man, it was at the DIA, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of them, the one with
and
the straw hat.
And doesn't that guy in
Brilliant.
Doctor Who look like him?
Oh,
When
yeah. And
he goes side view.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
He, that actor was also in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
He's
Fantastic.
good, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he was the Invisible Man. But anyway,
Right.
hard to see him. But he was.
How do you know he was in it then?
There's a couple scene you can see him. He's got the makeup on occasion, but nice try.
He's good.
Brilliant though. I really liked Van Gogh, and I think that we can learn a lot from like Kirby, Van Gogh, Leonardo, but I think that we have to find our storytellers.
I think you have to find. I think with art, you have to. It's like music. To me, I have my favorites in music, and there are some I don't listen to, but I can appreciate what they're doing. I don't follow people like the Rolling Stones.
Yeah,
I'm a Beatles fan.
Yeah,
but the Rolling Stones are great, and when they're on, I'll listen to it and I'll watch it. If Mick Jagger's in a program, I'll watch it. But I've never bought one of his records. I'm not a fan. I could only name you 10 songs off 50 albums that they've done, because I'm not a fan. But I do appreciate their contribution, and I can see they are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a fan of theirs. Same with Van Gogh. Like I said, his color work is second to none, but his rendering is like, it draws like a child. Well, I'm not saying he's no good, just that I don't like it.
I can understand your point on how he draws like a child. I think it might have been that he chewed on his lead-based paints a lot, and that could have stunted a lot of the paint.
No, all that would do is kill
the brushes.
That wouldn't stop you drawing. That just stop you. That just kill you.
Well, no, I mean that heightened his. I think it heightened his color sense. That was probably the lead. I mean, honestly, in his bloodstream. But anyway, and there's been a lot of people that talked about that. It's not just Ted's, view on Van Gogh. I'm not an art historian by any means, but I just think that that's from what I've studied and what he's, I think that that's probably very true what happened. But okay, Grant asked about Toth and Eisner. Yes, I'm fans.
Eisner, yeah.
Eisner, definitely.
Mainly Eisner.
Yep. And then Joe asked, where is Ditko in your list of storytelling artists? To me, he's not a Jack Kirby, but he's influential. I'll give him that.
I have a lot. Kirby. I have a lot of people who are joint second, and Ditko would be a joint second.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't have I don't. I mean, yeah, he's cool, but yeah, I don't.
Odd opinion about Van Gogh. Oh well, just my opinion.
But no, it's opinion. Van Gogh's got some really his story. You're back to story. The history behind all of it, whether it's him or Monet or Cezanne or
all the good people,
Pizarro, and all these amazing artists that we had in the past. The stories are what really get me. And then looking at it doesn't ruin them. Goya, all these things of how they put these masterpieces together, no different than comic books in my eyes. When I look at stories about the creators, like, that you provided with meeting Jack and everything and seeing that, it's enriched everything about my viewpoints on the way Jack's work was. So, I mean, yeah, I think story is important. Like you said, layout, super important. But I think that ultimately the reader's got the subjective choice.
Yeah.
Because they're going to end up telling you what they like and what they don't like. And you know what? Everybody's right and everybody's wrong. So
yeah. Frostbear 8 says, how do you explain Liefeld? Well, I wouldn't.
I'm not I've seen him on interviews. I mean, he was a hot shot guy back in the 90s. I mean, I never really cared for his artwork. And
Yeah.
the more I see it, the more of the collection that I go through that we've got here. And it's okay. Some of the covers are awesome, but some of them are just like, wow, I can't believe that he broke through like he did. That he was positioned, I guess, in the right time. It was okay. And some people think he's just think he's the ultimate, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just not, I don't know.
It is a generational thing to an extent.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in Florida at Cape Canaveral, there was a Apollo 14 command module there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic, right? And there were these school kids there, and they were about 14 and 15, and there was this 15-year-old kid, smart ass kid in front of me. And do you know what he said to his friend? Not to me, I was just behind him. He said to his friend, he said, "Look at that." And this kid said, "Yeah, that's been to the moon." He said, "It sucks. It's only been to the moon." So the enormity was lost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's like with artwork.
Well, yeah, and it's like I said, it's subjective. Every experience can be subjective. So
Yeah, that's what we're doing now.
whether you're looking at a comic book from the 1960s like you did when you were 10, or when I was looking at comics when I was 10 in 1981,
Yeah,
there was a difference in it. A little similar, I would think, than they are now compared to now. The paper's different, the printing quality is different, the digital work is different. I don't know. I do think that layouts though do change because of the generational technology and what you think the public is demanding. Maybe that's the rub of it. Maybe that, we look at some of these comics that are even 10 years ago are amazing. The quality of what they did, as far as the paper quality and the printer, amazing. And today it's astounding what they can do with colors and, just explosions, everything. It's incredible digitally, but it loses something for me. Now, it doesn't for people of this era, this generation. The kids that are coming up now, they really enjoy this, and they don't necessarily like Jack Kirby. They don't know, because they don't understand not all of them, but some of them are just like, yeah, I don't get it. Even my son has said that, I don't. He said I appreciate it, but I don't get it. Just like you said, I appreciate it. I don't necessarily a fan. And that's important, that you don't just discard them. You don't cut them off. You don't just shadow them
I think
block them out.
This is a generational thing. It's the shoulders of giants, isn't it? And it's like people, and I think that in 50 years' time, those people who are doing this work will be something new will be coming along, and they'll be talking like I do about things. It's people sometimes don't recognize where they come from, and the ground. Like I know somebody who thinks that Elvis Presley is a just total waste of time. Well, if there's no Elvis, there's nothing else, is there?
Right.
You know what I mean? So he must have done something right.
Sure. There's no Muddy Waters, no Rolling Stone.
That's right.
That's it. There's no,
exactly. Yeah.
So, there's, it's all part of it, right? Todd McFarlane, I think he's become quite a marketing master when it comes to everything over the last 20 years, but I do like his artwork. I've got to say the Spider-Man stuff was pretty impressive. Trying to duplicate that was a nightmare. So I think Todd's one of these guys that's, he's a showman. He really can market. I mean, he's an amazing thing. He's done things differently, business-wise, than I think anybody else. And I think when you're looking back on Image and everything else, he was the main player. I think that Liefeld was important to, but I think that at that time, but I think Todd was
I always see him as more of a businessman. Was it his idea to do 15 variant covers?
I think so. Probably.
And each one sold 2 million copies or something. So what a great marketing move.
Yeah, and I think even today, the toys alone, I think he's made more money with the toys than he did with comics. I could be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But
good luck to him.
Yeah, more power to him. But he's taken the medium into, it's continuing to evolve. And the characters are still being talked about. So
yeah, and we're talking about him now.
Let's see. I'm just reading Grant's. But there are a lot of comic artists who are doing art that is nostalgic inspired. Well, nostalgia sells. That's it. Period. nostalgia is something. It's weird because you hear about you've got the oldies in music, and then you got the golden oldies. So
Yeah.
and there's things that's weird because the things that you listen to are not considered oldies. And I'm like, back in the day, I was a teenager. I listened to
they
Def
will be
Leppard
oldies, won't they? They will
what's
be
that?
oldies. They will be oldies.
No, they are oldies. They're
No,
considered oldies now, but your stuff is really, Motown and that was always oldies.
Right.
Rockabilly, rock and roll back in the 50s, that's oldies. To me, golden oldies is like Benny Goodman for me, but that's ancient compared to the stuff that the kids are saying are golden oldies now. The same with these books. The books that we're talking about with Kirby and that in the next 20 years, 30 years, these are going to be historic document. They're like, yeah. Let's see what Grant says here. Artists like Guy Davis and David Aja are very inspired by the 1950s and 60s. I'll name more artists when I can think of them. I have, I have a lot of respect for nostalgia because I think that it's our back to foundations. It's part of
the thing about nostalgia. It's not what it used to be.
Okay, that's profound. All right, so the best comic, hands down, Fantastic Four. What number?
51.
51. So right before
that's just my
right
opinion.
before Fantastic Four 52 that we've got for sale. Ironically.
Just my opinion. I'm sure a lot of people will have their own little things, and good luck to them. And I appreciate that and respect that, but that is my opinion.
Sure. So I think that for my era and everything else, my generation, I think that Amazing Screw-On Head, Mike Mignola. If I had one comic, not Hellboy, not any of it, Amazing Screw-On Head.
So your Desert Island comic would be that.
Yeah, that would be it. And I could show everybody that one. It's a one-off. It's a great story. It's simple. It brings history. It's great. It's a great tie-in, not tie-in book, but it's a great book that everybody should know about it. Not everybody knows about it, but the Amazing Screw-On Head.
You can see the respect because we're saying about the Rolling Stones. If you said to Mick Jagger, I've never met Mick Jagger, so I don't know, but I bet if you said to him about his music, he would say what you said. That if no Muddy Waters, no Mick Jagger, no Little Richard, no Mick Jagger, no Beatles, all that kind of thing, and Paul McCartney and all those people, I bet would say no Elvis, no Paul McCartney type of thing. And this is what I'm saying is that there's no Kirby, and Grant has a pop at me about liking Kirby, but I don't care because he's the best, and that's what people should look at. Not think, oh, he's been dead 50 years and he's rubbish, and look at the way he draws knees and toenails. That's not the point. Learn, and I reckon that if you got Todd McFarlane and people like that, they'd have a great respect for Kirby because they know what he is.
I think Joe said it best. You want to read it?
No, you read it.
Okay. But that thing of why I don't think it's generational. If people are not exposed to Ditko, Kirby, Byrne, Perez, etc., then their frame of reference would not be complete. And I agree with that 100%. Just like we look at the masters in art.
Yeah.
You wouldn't understand why Picasso did what he did with Cubism. Right. You wouldn't understand any of that movement, that whole, whether it's Impressionism or Surrealism or whatever ism it is. Yeah. Frostbear says that his favorite is Superman number 680. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about with that. What's this Superman thing?
I know, Grant. I'm just pulling your chain like Ted was trying to pull mine.
This is all for fun, guys. This is not a razz. We're not razzing anybody, or
we're not going to fall out with anybody.
Yeah, and that's so when it all boils down to it, page layout for Glenn is primary. It's a definite. You've got to have the right page layout on this, and that is the most important thing versus art but the story and layout have to be first.
Well, if the page layout doesn't work, then the art is irrelevant, however good it is. It's about the story. Yeah. Now you don't need the words; you can tell the story in the art, which we've covered before.
Yeah.
but you've got to have the right pace. And the best thing to read is the Will Eisner book. That'll show you about pacing and
I agree with you.
and panel
100%.
size, and all that, which is what I'm getting at. So all by the sequential art book by Will Eisner, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because he was the master, one of the masters.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that a lot of people would say that about Will. I think he was fantastic.
Great man.
All right. It's Jody says it's fine to follow the Frizen, Liefeld, J. Scott, Campbell, etc., but people need to know before them and have some appreciation. Yeah, and I agree. And that's the journey. That's part of all of it. And you know we're all learning. And when we stop learning, well, maybe that's time to hang it up. But man, I appreciate you, Glenn. I'm glad that we can have debates and you can admit you're wrong, and it's good. So
I'm always wrong.
No, me too. It's all right. So guys, thanks for stopping in and discuss this topic of layout and art and story. And you guys figure out what you guys think is the most important thing. Find out what the comic book is saying to you, the one that you love, and why do you like it so much? Let us know in the comments. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah. Stick around after the show and we'll talk.
Yeah. See you later.
We'll yell at each other a little bit more.
Yeah. See everybody.
All right. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great work week, guys. Do good coming up to the weekend now. So do something good for somebody, whether they're good or bad. So hopefully
keep out the sun.
Yeah. Well, get some sun, but just don't get burned. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Welcome to the Comics Unlimited podcast with your hosts, Glenn B. Fleming and Ted Davis.